welcome to our CESI Talks, a series of conversations with experts and MEPs on the impacts of transitions, a project that is supported by the European Union. Today, we have the honor to have with us Mrs. Dubravka Šuica, Commissioner in charge of Democracy and Demography at the European Commission. Thank you so much for being here. And also with us, obviously, our Secretary General, Mr. Klaus Heeger. So I will start with a question to our Commissioner. What have we learned from the Conference on the Future of Europe, and what are the next steps?
Very good question. We learned a lot. You know that the Conference on the Future of Europe was envisaged to start 2 years ago in May 2020, but due to known reasons, it started last year on the 9th of May, on Day of Europe, and we somehow speeded up whole process, and we managed to do it. We did everything first via multilingual digital platform, then via European citizens panels, then different panels at local, regional, and national level, and then in the end we managed to have a conference plenaries and everything in accordance with calendar. We have now 49 proposals, as you know, plus 326 measures, which had broad consensus by citizens, but not only by citizens, also by members of national governments, members of national parliaments, members of European Parliament, trade unions, other stakeholders from civil society. So everybody was included in these plenary sessions, which was very, very important. For us, from the very beginning, citizens were at the heart of the whole process. And this is how we look at this conference, because it hasn't finished yet. Although we said it's over, yes, it was over this year, 9th of May, with these proposals, but the most important part of the conference starts now, which is follow-up. So for me, for us, follow-up is very important. If you are interested, this morning we had very important items on the agenda of the college, and we also adopted 3 proposals from these 49, having proposals connected to restoration of nature, to food security, to use of pesticides. So in fact, we managed to adopt 7 measures which were adopted by citizens, and these were in fact 3 proposals. So citizens were alerted on climate change, on future of European soil, on food security, on supply chains, and everything was included. And we are happy that we managed to solve what citizens asked us. You may put me the question, we may ask me, why, if this was in pipeline, how is it possible that citizens were not aware of this? So this, my reply would be, we badly need better communication. We have to communicate to our citizens what we are doing and what Europe can do for our citizens. And this is something which is missing. And we are now trying to improve this communication and to show our citizens what we are doing. And why I'm saying this is because we envisaged another conference plenary, which will be held end of October, beginning in November, in autumn, and it will be a new follow-up. So when I was saying a year ago, 2 years ago, what is the difference between this conference, the future of Europe, and previous exercises like citizen dialogues and others, is that there is a benchmark which differentiates us from others. We will have follow-up and feedback. And this is very important because we will be open, correct, transparent, fair to our citizens to tell them what we can do and what we cannot do. Maybe sometimes can be done because it's out of scope of our competencies. Okay, let's see. So there are, in fact, 3 different types of proposals. Some of them are already in, we are already working on them. Then you have second part, which is in pipeline, will be done very soon. Third, there are new ideas which come from citizens, and we are ready to put them into the Commission's work program for next year. And the fourth, which I haven't mentioned, are the proposals which are out of our competencies, which need treaty change. But it's less than 10% of these proposals, so we will see how to deal with this. It's not up to the Commission. It's up to also other institutions, European Parliament and European Council, to agree on whether they will launch this convention, whether they will start this change of treaty. We will see what is the best option for our Europe. And so this is something which is the result or outcome of this conference. And I hope that if we are not ready to proceed, then it would have been better not to start anything. I'm sure that we are ready to proceed. Yesterday, I was present in Luxembourg in the General Affairs Council, where all 27 ministers who are in charge of European affairs are in favor of starting working on the 49 proposals, and everybody is in favor of this. And I think this is very important, and we needed input from our citizens, because sometimes they see the things better from different perspective than us policymakers.
Thank you, Mrs. Šuica. And now to you, Mr. Heeger. We know that if we're talking about the future of Europe, we also have to talk about the future of work. So do you think that the conference will somehow benefit the world of work in Europe?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Vice President, also for being with us today. I was very skeptical, I have to say, at the beginning of this conference, albeit the fact that also, Mrs. Šuica, you came to our board meeting exactly a year ago, and I think you delivered very well. And also in terms of convincing people. And when I look at these 49 proposals, and look at the tremendous work which has been done, I must say I have to change my mind. And when I look at proposals, for instance, 13 and 14, it's about inclusive labor markets. The measures should ensure statutory minimum wages. The implementation of the working time directive should be enforced. Smart working should be regulated. There's a lot of focus on active labor market policies and promoting youth unemployment, something we want from our side also. But Ms. Vice President, she put the finger on the wound, and she said, well, in how far does this become real politics? And I think, of course, if this comes into real being, then mission accomplished. And I was just also reading today one of the press releases that the Trade Commissioner will present, or has presented, you were probably in the college meeting, I don't know if it has been done, a proposal to enforce climate and labor commitments in trade deals. And when we look at proposal 11 for sustainable growth and innovation, it clearly states there that ambitious social labor and health standards, including occupational health and safety, should be included in new EU trade unions. So all of a sudden, there's a political impact here of the work of the COFOE, of the Conference on the Future of Europe. And this political impact becomes legislative at a certain point, mostly, depending also, Ms. Šuica, you were referring to it, to the respective level. And this is, once again, great job, mission accomplished. And so let's proceed in that direction. Albeit the fact, as I said, that I have been very skeptical at the beginning.
Okay, thank you for this. Maybe I can reflect on this, what you said. We adopted this communication this morning on trade. Valdis Dombrovskis is my colleague, executive vice president, who is in charge. And yes, we are enforcing all this through this communication. So social labor and health standards will be included in each and every new trade agreement. So this was adopted this morning, and you are right, and I think we are on the right track. So citizens also put us on the right track, but some issues were already in the pipeline, as I said. They only empowered us, okay?
And that it's a good thing. So, Ms. Vice President, I will actually get the chance to maybe go into a little bit more detail about the contribution of the conference specifically to the green and digital transition of Europe.
Yes, you know that our two main priorities, or twin priorities, are digital and green. And these very important. We are working on it. So EU Green Deal is our first priority, and we are doing a lot on this. So this Fit for 55 package is being done all the time, and today in European Parliament they will vote on this. So this is under procedure. Regarding digital, when you think about, of course, digital, we realize that we are more capable in digitalization than we might have thought earlier. At the beginning of this pandemic, can you imagine that if we weren't digitally educated, digitally literate, we wouldn't have been able to work, we wouldn't have been able to survive lockdown. So we showed that we are capable, but we have to do a lot more. And this is the reason why we are now investing massively in digitalization in order to have also broadband internet all over Europe, in each and every village, in order to, of course, to create new jobs, to maybe exchange human jobs with this artificial intelligence, with robotics, but without being connected, you cannot do it. So today you don't ask someone where you are, but how well you are connected, and this is something which I think is very important. So when you ask me about is this just or just this, of course we think that Europe is a project of solidarity, and we have to be just society, and we have to think about each and every citizen of Europe regardless of where he or she lives. So when we say to leave no one behind, we also can add to leave no one and nowhere behind. This is something which is also a result of this conference and of the deliberation of our citizens. So for us, we have what is one of the results is to enhance the digital single market for companies of all sizes, and to make Europe to be a world leader in digital transformation and in human-centric digitalization. Human-centric. So this is very important. Same is valid for green transition. But although you haven't asked me, but these two transitions wouldn't be imaginable or important without taking into account the third transition, which is also undergoing and underpinning all our policies, and this is demographic transition. So we have to think about demography. It is part of my portfolio, of course, but without demography, you cannot draft any economic policy nowadays. You have to know what's going on granular level in each village, in each municipality, in each town, if you want to draft new policies. And this is something which is very important. This is the reason why we devised one very important tool, which you might not be aware of, which is called Atlas of Demography. So if you click on Atlas of Demography, you will find your village, your community, your municipality 20 years ago, now, and what are the future possible developments. So this is very important for politicians of all on all levels, and this is something which our Joint Research Center here in the Commission devised together with DGs. So this is very important, but of course always taking into consideration just society and solidarity on which European Union was and is founded.
Thank you, Ms. Vice President. And I will point out something that you said that is really important, which is at the base of our trade union, which is let's not leave anybody behind. So I would like to ask Mr. Heeger, what is the role of trade union in this green transition?
Well, first of all, I'd like to refer also to the outstanding paper you, Sarah, submitted to our Presidium for adoption, which was adopted last week, and which will be presented also during our summer days next week. We know they are the twin or even the three transitions Ms. Vice President was referring to. I would just say we know the digital transition is happening, and the green transition must happen, because also, as I say, there are no new green jobs on a new planet. So we just have to face that. And now we have a whole, let's say, situation which is aggravating many policy designs which we're aiming at. So we have to see how this will develop also in terms of economy and employment. But first of all, we know, of course, that in a certain way, jobs will be lost in certain areas, in certain sectors. We know that certain regions will be, I don't want to, maybe deserted. They will suffer economically very, very strongly. And we know also where jobs will be lost, not necessarily new ones will be created. And of course, which is a big concern for us, also the jobs created are not necessarily the same in terms of quality. And so we will have as trade unions somehow to make sure that on the one hand, economies, sectors and regions remain competitive, remain economically, how could I say, alive, that we have to make sure that as many sustainable jobs as possible are being preserved, that as many quality jobs as possible are being created, and that, of course, as many unsustainable jobs are transformed into sustainable ones. And last but not least, of course, that the workforce is being helped to adapt to new realities. And that means I am convinced, and this is not only because I'm here Secretary General of CESI, but I'm convinced that this, as Mrs. Šuica was referring to, these transitions will not be successful if we leave people behind. So we have to place those representing also workers and certainly also those representing citizens, meaning the civil society, here also at the heart of these transitions. Workers and the representatives, I think, they must be informed, they must be consulted, they must be heard, they must be at the center of, let's say, restructuring plans. Let them be at company level, let them be at regional level, let them be at sectoral level. And I think this will be the only possible key to success. So once again, the role of trade unions, fundamental, is crucial, is central.
Exactly, Mr. Heeger, what you were just saying right now, maybe let's just send one message to our CESI members. Why should workers and citizens get involved in the procedures that will determine our future? And then I will ask the same question to our Miss Vice President.
Why our members and citizens should get involved? I think Europe, it has many, many defaults and lots of shortcomings. And it's still the most rewarding thing, I think, to get committed to this project. I think you can draw some kind of personal rewards out of it, that you meet other people from other nations, that as a trade unionist, you get to know much more. You know how problems are solved in other countries, but you also get a professional benefit out of it, that you can indeed influence also the working conditions of your members, either through impacting EU legislation, having an impact on EU legislation, or helping other trade unions in their national endeavors. As a European confederation, there's nothing more rewarding, I think, both in terms of results and in terms of human relations.
Thank you, Secretary General. And Ms. Vice President Šuica, why should workers and citizens get involved?
First, what I haven't mentioned at the beginning, and I should, is that I'm grateful for the contribution you have already made to the conference, trade unions, because you already shown that you are willing to put the necessary time and also effort to build a better common future. So I strongly believe that the role of citizens and their input was crucial in this process. And this is also critical. This was also critical to include the voices of independent trade unions. So I think this was very important. So we wouldn't have a complete picture of how European future should like without having trade unions with us. So thank you once again. So I think that we have to stay in touch. We have to continue our cooperation by engaging in our democratic this process, but also there are other processes, using all available tools, and I'm sure that this will bring also value to others like you. And for me, the most important issue is that we agreed on follow up on the proposals, and that President von der Leyen, on the day of Europe, when there was a final big event of the conference, she committed, or herself, or she promised that we will enable citizens panels to deliberate always and to make recommendations always ahead of some key big legislations, which means that we will ensure resources and time for another citizens panels in order to help us when we envisage some big key legislative acts, which is, I think, reassuring, which shows that we already included deliberative democracy into participatory democracy process. So this is only the beginning, but I'm sure that we will do it. So this is another avenue which could be used in future, and your input and the input of other citizens will be crucial for future consultations. So I think that only by being active and engaged, you can ensure that your voice is heard. So we don't want to be perceived to be distant from the ground, to be distant from citizens. We want to be perceived, and we want to not only perceive, but we want to be the ones who interact with our citizens, because we think that in the new era of digitalization and the new era of technological boom, we have to consult our citizens on daily basis, because otherwise we may get lost between two elections. 5 years is too long period, so we badly need to be empowered by the ideas of citizens, and this is what we are doing with this exercise. And only one last word, you know that there is a portal in Commission which is called Have Your Say. This portal, Have Your Say, will be at your disposal. It will be open, and so this is a sort of this multilingual digital platform which will stay there. Citizens will be able to express their opinions about different issues. So I want to thank you very much for your interest in our work. I hope that we did a big step in this deliberative democracy, and I'm sure that we will do a lot more in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Vice President. Thank you for being with us in this little short conversation. And I think what we can draw out is, as a trade union, our prerogative is to be active, to be engaged in order to empower workers and not to leave them behind, and ensure quality jobs and quality jobs. And I think this is what's going to happen in the future if we manage to get everybody involved, get everybody informed, and have a risk assessment and analysis that depends obviously on demography as well, as you said. So thank you so much for your contribution and for your support, and thank you, Mr. Heeger, as always, for representing workers, and hopefully we will see each other soon in the next conversation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Vice President.
Thank you very much, and
see you
soon.